So, you're here for alternative distribution. I'm Jon Fitzgerald, and I've had the privilege of working with filmmakers for over 30 years now. I was a co-founder of Slamdance in '95 and was able to run a bunch of festivals after that, so I've seen a lot of movies. I've been able to help a lot of filmmakers try and find the right path. Unless your head's been in the sand for the last couple of years, you know that the game has changed, right? The business is broken, and we're all trying to find new models and new ways of distribution. And I've written a couple of articles about it. These folks up here all have something to say about it. But the bottom line is, if your goal is to find an audience, there is a way to find your audience, and it's not about finding the deal with A24 or Fox Searchlight. It's about, is it a film that belongs in theaters? Should it be an event release? I have a client that's playing a film tomorrow that doesn't want to do theatrical. He wants to go straight to streaming platforms and an educational campaign. So it really depends on your goals. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. But I'm going to turn it over to Robert. Tell us about your company and what you do, and then we'll just go down and spend 2 minutes each, and then I'll throw a question to each of you, and then we'll open it up.
Hi, I'm Robert Diaz. I'm a co-founder for CineRoad Productions, or CineRoad Roadshow, and what we do is DIY theatrical distribution training or modules. And I've been a film editor for 25 years, a little bit more than 25 years, specifically in film and reality television kind of stuff.
I'm Joan Webb. I'm with Ronin Film. We are a micro studio. We specialize in virtual production and also distribution in first-run theaters for indie filmmakers.
Hi, I'm Peter Lebo, and I'm one of the owners of Pretty Hard Cinema's Dine-In Theater. And we have shown several independent films in the past, and we're exploring the option of increasing that due to the scarcity of quality new release productions.
Great. Well, let's jump right in. So because we have an amazing case study up here with us, I'm going to save some of the other ones for later, but I'd love to just hear a little bit more about the film that you worked on together. You took it to theaters. You did it yourself. You didn't want to wait for somebody to say yes. You knew there was an audience for it. It's a brilliant campaign. It's doing gangbusters. And I just would love to hear a little bit more about the film and the path before we get to the masterclass idea. But talk a little bit about, maybe, Joan, the idea of how you decided to take this film out.
Right, okay. So this is an independent film that's been quite a few years in the process of making. And when we were right at I'm going to get into a little bit of virtual production because we did 2 epic mega grants to prove to them that we could make the Unreal Engine a real-time photoreal visual effects tool. So in between the mega grants, we then learned how to do this new visual effects, right? This virtual production. And so we then added 100 shots to our film, a virtual production. And it took 3 people 2.5 months to raise the value and the look of the film by $1 million. So we really had this fabulous quality film, this great film. Of course, when you're the filmmaker, you all believe, your film is the best film. We got a lot of reviews and feedback on it. But what really changed us is that we were seeing a change in the industry. The major studios went from releasing 300 films a year to 2 years ago, 81, last year, 61. Right, so the theaters are dying. We see Jaws on the key, on the marquee, and so what we did, my business partner and I, Peter Hiaguchi, who's a director and VP Super, we went to CinemaCon, which used to be Show West. If you aren't all familiar with CinemaCon, and it is where the majors show their lineup for the year to the theater owners. Well, we knew the theater owners were hurting, so as independent filmmakers, we went to CinemaCon and were pretty disruptive, to the flow because they had never had an indie filmmaker there. So we just went directly to the theaters, and then that was just last year. That was just this month last year. And so from our research there and talking to theater owners, we showed them our film, and we would show them a clip and said, would you show this film in your theater? And they said yes. So what we did is we started along a journey where we didn't just go in and four-wall. We made deals. We actually did beta testing because we weren't sure, how this new theater, endeavor would work, because you were indie filmmakers outside and kind
It
of
was more of an event and a one-night thing than a
Right.
booking, just to be clear.
Right, yes. So that's what we did, is we created an event. So we went to a theater. So this is what's really interesting. We went and we created an event. They will not give you a weeknight, a weekend. A weekend will not happen for an indie filmmaker, but they will give you a weekday if they'll take your film. And then when you do well, because it's all performance based. So when you do well, then they have invited us back for another week. It does well, they do it another week. So now we're on 3 weeks of 3 different theaters being asked to return. So what that does, though, is that thing gives you a weekend, because you did the weekday, and now that you get the week, then you start to get into the weekends. So that's how we started. We can go into more details later. I don't want to.
We'll come back to that. So, Peter, just because you run a theater, can you talk a little bit about how this experience might lead to more bookings for you? I'm sure that you have filmmakers coming to you just for event releases, right? Or do you work with Gather sometimes and get bookings from Gather? Talk a little bit about your venue.
Yeah, well, this is definitely something we would want to explore. You made a good point about weekends are tough, almost impossible, not necessarily forever, though. It would depend upon how well a film does, and it could actually get enough traction if it has a strong enough following and marketing to garner a weekend position. But having said that, right now where we are is exactly what Jon said, which is if you slot the movies at the right days of the week, right times of day, and allow the exhibitor to determine when it would best show at that particular theater, then you would be best able to position your film for as many showings as possible for as long a period of time as possible. So it could be days, it could be weeks, as you're getting into now, as long as there's a coordination with what the schedule is on the big studio releases, at what time of year it is, and that sort of thing. I mean, during the fall and the downtime of the winter, there's more availability, there's more space. Summer, holidays, we're jammed. But the key is to allow, with, of course, coordination with the independent filmmaker, and understanding that we need to coordinate to be able to determine the best time to show your film, how many times a day, how many days a week, and for how long.
Yeah, and what are you going to do to market it, right? Which we're going to come back to a little bit later, because you guys have a really good model for that. But before we do that, I want to there's a whole thing around booking, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Gather has done. If you haven't heard of Gather, it's spelled kind of funny, Gathr, but you can book through Gather, set up an account, and they'll book a first-run theater for you midweek, and then they sell a certain number of tickets based on your threshold, and then it's a green light for that screening. They also do virtual and all that, so check out Gather, and also Kinema with a K. But could you talk a little bit about the idea of helping filmmakers on this theatrical thing and what you did with the masterclass, Robert? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah,
To help filmmakers figure it out.
Yeah, so the master class was a brainchild of Peter Hiyaguchi and myself. Peter came up with me and him worked together on The Occult. It's a film that he directed, I edited, and he's been trying to figure out a way to get it into theaters and distribution. So digital distribution wasn't working out for him, so he went by himself, as we said, to promote this to independent theaters, and he would always try to book Mondays and Wednesdays, which is when they would allow him and he didn't have to four-wall. He just got in there on those nights because those are the slow nights. And then that's...
You do a rev share?
What's that?
Do you a revenue share?
Revenue share?
Or did you just
I don't think we did revenue share, did we?
Yeah, well, we have. We've done different things. Actually, what we started out on is we were offering the movie for free because we were beta testing our marketing and PR efforts, and to prove, it's one thing to say that we proved it and we got this one theater but that could be an anomaly. This one theater and this, 3 weeks following, but now we've had it happen 3 times. So that's, yeah.
And it's called CineRoad, right?
CineRoad, yeah. So CineRoadshow.com, and it's all the tactics that he's used. So basically, you go in and try to get it on a Monday or Wednesday night. Like I said, it's their slow nights. Tuesday nights, not so much because that's like kind of their Taco Tuesday, right? So they get you in there for that. And once you prove yourself in there, then they can extend you. We've also just recently gotten into the Jessup Drive-In Movie Theater, where they've held us over for 3 weeks, which includes weekends and things like that. And then the same owners coincidentally own movie theaters too, and this is all in Georgia. In the Midwest, and they also held us over for, I think, 2 or 3 weeks as well. So, and then you just go around to towns or wherever you find. Of course, we kind of teach for you guys to go to where you're from. So, like, because a lot of your cast and your crew are people in your area, so they're always going to show up. And basically what you want to show is that you can bring people to the theater, sell out their concession stands, and make a good show, make a good event. There's great ways to, you want to tie in your actors, and a lot of these people, especially in the Midwest, don't have Hollywood producers or directors coming to their town and showcasing their stuff and where you could actually speak with them. Peter also went a little bit further and had Zoom calls with some of the actors and
he was doing Q&As at most of these events, right? That was part of the sell.
Yeah. Tom Holland is not Spider-Man, but the other Tom Holland is actually, which is in Chucky, Child's Play, Fright Night. So he was in the film, and he came around, and they got to do Q&A with him via Zoom. On the big screen, there's Tom Holland answering. Yeah, so it was a great event.
Created events.
Yeah, exactly. He created an event. He used Twitter. He used TikTok, a lot of those.
We're going to shift to you in a sec to talk marketing, but before we forget, tell everybody how to find CineRoad.
Just go to CineRoadshow.com, and you can join in for a free newsletter, and you could also get the course there, and just go to the website, and you'll be able to log in and get in.
Awesome. Joan, tell us a little bit about the marketing and how you got cheeks in the seats.
Oh, okay. So that was part of our discovery at first. I mean, there was a lot for us to learn. We didn't understand really how the theaters operated with the major studios, right? And that they had kind of a hold on all those rooms, whether the people were attending the film or not. So we did different things. We did free screenings, and now we're doing for pay screenings. But what we would do is the filmmakers need to be very active in their marketing and PR with us. And we've gone out on the street. One of the things that we do is our film is about a tarot reader, right? So with tarot highly influenced in the film. So we created tarot cards and then they're distributed all over the town a couple weeks before the screening, and people pick them up, and then they see a QR code on the back. It's very curious. It's a typical tarot card. So you pick it up thinking, what is this doing here? You turn it around, and it says the occult with the QR code, so they can see the trailer, right? And when the film is going to play, etc. So we were giving out free seats. But then what we would find too is that we had over promoted. So we were going to be in a room of 90 people, in a screen that had 90 seats, and all of a sudden we had 200 people there. Well, that's kind of a good problem. But what they did is they just opened up another room, and the theater loved it because it was all about concessions. Even when it was free, they were making money when they would normally be, dark or something. So it's really about marketing and PR endeavors, heavily engaged together, with the filmmaker being out on the beat with the street, showing up for the morning show on Fox, getting radio interviews, and we've gotten a ton of this. And this is what is really bringing people out. Really, it becomes word of mouth is the most important aspect to a success of a film. So you put out the cards, you have TikTok ads, you have all these different things, and we would beta test what would this ad look like for women. And then and if it's a horror film, it's actually kind of interesting that more women buy tickets to horror films. So, and so we're doing all these tests. What if we engage men in this? Because we weren't sure, but now we've done enough of this that we're starting to understand it. But marketing is so important. You can have the best film in the world, and if no one knows about it, it's not going to go anywhere.
And something that Peter said on our call was the idea that this is good to know, because typically if you're an independent film, you're spending $10,000 or $20,000 on a city for a release, for a typical theatrical, even if it's a platform release, which doesn't sound like a lot of money, but it's a lot of money to most people in this room, right? But what's interesting about what you guys did is Peter said that he would spend between $150 and $200 on posters, and then another $150 to $200 on social media ads, right? And you can geo-target with Facebook and Instagram and all that. So for a nominal amount of money, you can literally bicycle this thing across the country. But one thing that's kind of been said, but I'm gonna just say it again, just in case it wasn't clear, is this is not handing your movie over to somebody and then going about your life. If you wanna do this self-distribution thing, you have to really commit and have the time for it. It's definitely a hands-on approach, and I know Peter is maybe not going to be at every one going forward, but for the first part of this run, he was at all the Q&As, and that's part of the sell, right? Because the filmmaker gets to talk to the audience, so you have to be able to commit if this is a path you're going to go down. So, Peter, can you talk a little bit more about if a filmmaker approached you and said, I've got this great film, I've got the trailer, I've got my materials, I'll take a Tuesday or Wednesday night, what kind of deal would you strike with a filmmaker? Is it a revenue share thing? Is it a booking thing? How does that work with you?
Well, we've done it. I want to second one of the things that you just said, because it's very important. If the filmmaker shows up to do a Q&A at the film, that makes a very large difference, both in the marketing approach and in the sales. If the filmmaker shows up to the film and spends just even 10, 15 minutes for a Q&A before or after the film, that makes a huge difference in the ability to be able to market and sell the film. In terms of, to answer your question, Robert, what do we do in terms of revenue sharing? It varies. Sometimes it's a flat sum, sometimes it's that versus a percentage of the gross at the box. And it's flexible. And we've done deals ranging.
Okay, so it's not a straight deal. It's custom. I've done a lot with the Lumiere Theater in Los Angeles, and sometimes it's a rev share, sometimes it's they just give them $1,000 and do a gala and bring out the step and repeat and all that. Cool. So if it's okay with you guys, I think we should open it up and let them ask their questions, and then we can have 5 minutes at the end to wrap up anything that you didn't get to cover. Is that cool? Awesome. All right, you guys got some questions? Yeah. You already know everything.
When you're talking about doing the beta tests and when they buy more tickets and all that, was that actually for selling tickets at that point?
No, that was for the free ticket, but it takes a big effort. You don't just say, "Hey, come to this free film," and people show up. And you know what was really interesting is that time when we had about 180 people there, and we've had that several times. Something like 70 of them stay, and we're in Middle America. These are not film, students, and they're just interested, and the Q&A brings them in. And the talent, you may have an actress or actor on it, and you may have, the director, but it really takes involvement from the team.
Other questions? Come on, you don't have it all figured out. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to think through this question as I say it because I'm not exactly sure what I'm asking. But obviously, this is focused on self-distribution. I understand there's a lot of cowboys in the game, right? There's a lot of people who are gonna contact you and be like, "It sounds amazing! Oh my god, I'm gonna show it to everyone." How do you know who to trust? And with somebody else coming to you, a film distribution company, like what sort of deal is a good deal? Because basically I've had like distributors come to me and ask for money from me. And then I've managed to like negotiate that now where I don't have to pay that anymore. So what is like a big no-no when you have people coming to you? Because I don't know.
So let me just tell you a few things, and then I'm sure Joan has a lot to say about this, but I've had a lot of clients that get offers from what I'll call kind of the bottom feeders, the companies that are in the volume game, and they're trying to just acquire as many movies as they can, and then they send them in big packages to, you know, the Tubies and, you know, all the AVOD players. And sometimes you get lucky and Hulu and Netflix take a look, but more often than not, that's not what's happening. And so what's really important is that you look at the fine print and you make sure that they're not asking for your movie for 10 or 15 years and that they don't have unlimited marketing spend, which they have super creative accounting formulas going on. So I had a movie that I sold to Gravitas years ago, and I think we've seen maybe $25,000. And it's always just, they always just spend a little bit more than you make, you know? And the same thing with Magnolia. There's a lot of these companies are just, they're just super creative. And the most important thing to remember about all those deals, because you can start at the top and work your way down, and minimum guarantees, getting money up front, is hardly ever happening now. So if you're going to go with one of these companies that's going to take the movie off your hands for a certain amount of years, then it's because you don't believe that it can do that well, right? Because you're letting them have it. You're not going to be involved. And I think if you really believe in the movie, then you're better off taking control and saying, I'm not going to just hand this over to you. And maybe it's your own self-distribution model. Maybe it's one of those companies that takes it for 2 years. I think Indie Rights does 1 or 2 years now. So you give them a shot and then you get the movie back. But keeping an eye on the marketing spend and then asking them what they want to do with it. Because if it's a volume play, they're not doing anything for you. And you can pay an aggregator $1,500 to put it up on Amazon and Google Play and iTunes and all those places for you. But if you don't do any of the marketing that we're just talking about, nobody's going to see it anyway. It's just going to be on that platform. So those are kind of the highlights, but I'm sure you have a lot to say to that. He's got a mic for you. Do you want to contribute to that idea?
Well, I think, so specifically,
What kind of deal points are you looking for if somebody offers you a deal as a filmmaker?
well, yeah, I think it just has to be analyzed, because it's my understanding from many people we've spoken to that, you know, for the most part, the only thing that we've been seeing for indie filmmakers is streaming. And what we've been hearing is a lot, it's like $20,000. But what if you're even an ultra low budget? You'll never get your investors to help you again because you didn't make enough money, and they might own it for a long time, right? So, you know, so that's
Yeah, and you have to know what your goals are. Sorry, Heather. You have to know what you're trying to do with the film. If you have total commitment to playing in theaters, whether it's an event release or non-theatrical tour of some kind, that's one thing. If you know you want to give it a chance to do a platform release, you can book your own venues. If you know that you don't need theatrical because it's not that kind of movie, then the streaming play is probably fine for you. But then you can still look at companies like Gather or Kinema or Artini. There's so many companies now that can help you with digital and virtual without taking all the rights from you, without giving you a dime.
right. And what we're going to do, what we're doing is we're working with other filmmakers as well. We've already helped several other films, and now we're even doing a double feature right now with another team. And so it really is about getting out and making it happen. And I'll tell you what was super exciting for us is that when we were at Jessup, at the Jessup Drive-In, we actually beat out Snow White on their second weekend. On their second weekend. Now that's at that theater. Let's be clear. We didn't have a worldwide release, but it's pretty extraordinary what can be done. you know, and grassroots. It's really about grassroots, and it's heavy promotion, and we aren't spending, you know, an enormous amount of money, but what we're doing is we're building the brand. So when we take our films out or other people and they have success where you can get 3 more weeks and then you can get weekends and stuff like that, then what does that really do? That sets you up for investors to want to give you, you know, P&A money to get you going, because now you've got proof, you've got numbers, right? And you can actualize that. So that's really kind of the goal. And then, so it's about self-distribution for only a short time or a amount needed. And then it's really about when you can prove that, then you go to
You let them come to you.
a major chain, or they come to you, and then you go 2,000, 4,000 screens. That's where the transaction happens.
Yeah, and I also think it's really important, just really quickly, there are a lot of really good case studies about this stuff, so you could check it out. There's a film called The 5 Seasons. There's a film called Wisdom of Trauma. I do on the Fest Circuit Substack, I have a few articles in there about 10 filmmakers that have done their own distribution. You can read those. There are so many case studies out there that reach into different niches, right? If you have a niche and you have an audience, you can find them. I saw another hand over here somewhere. You already had one. Go ahead.
Yeah, really quick, sorry. I was wondering if you can speak more about social media marketing and what exactly are you using for like remarketing the film? If it is like content from the old film, like trailers and stuff, or the director talking about the film, or BTS footage or things
All of
like
them.
that. All of them.
Right. Definitely.
We have big success with TikTok.
Yeah, so social's important.
All over everywhere.
But also in person, really what's important, because we also are inquiring when people attend the film, how did you come? How do you know? Right? And so, you know, that.
Yeah, I think it's really important to like she was saying, we do film like interviews, and we interview people what they thought of the film, and then we just create even more content. It's all about content. The more you create a buzz for what you're doing, the better.
And
the more people you can tell. It's like that's what's great about social media is you can focus. You know, like she was saying, we focused on female between a certain age, and that happens to be our demographic. And it took a little while to figure that out, but we figured it out, and then that's kind of our go-to now. But it all depends on what genre your film is. I mean, you could hit the horror films. It could be about nursing, that you hit the local nurses, or it could be about whatever it is. You know, so you got to hit the groups and kind of focus your social media in that manner.
Yeah, and I just want to throw an idea out there because this is big, and a lot of people don't think about it because it's not about money, but there are a lot of partners and organizations that have marketing budgets and mailing lists and memberships. So think creatively about what companies and partners could help you get the word out. They may not sponsor your movie, they may not sponsor your release, but you know, you do an environmental doc and you get the Sierra Club to do some promotion for you. I mean, that's a lot of people learning about your movie. So partnerships are really, really important. We got time for a few more. Yeah.
I'm just wondering if you recall the pluses and minuses for four-wall versus profit sharing, or like basically how the decision is made.
Yeah, four-walling and service deals, it all comes down to a couple things. One is how much money you want to spend. And I think what this group is kind of supporting is the idea of event releases. I think it's one thing to say that the studios aren't releasing as many films and the theaters are hurting, but there's also a bit of an issue of, you know, audiences getting used to watching movies at home is the bottom line too, right? That's part of it. But if you create an event and you can get everybody to come on a certain night, that makes a lot more sense now than it used to be. I'm going to just four-wall and book the venue for $5,000 and buy it out for the week. Or you can get creative now and do revenue shares. But I think if you can create a series of screenings that are one night, then everybody in that community comes that one night. And if they want to hold it over, that's amazing. That's a home run. But you can be successful just taking it to, 2,500 markets, and then all the big boys want you, right? All the bigger players will come to you after that. but it's not. I don't think it makes a lot of sense for an independent film to be spending $5 or $10 grand to four-wall a screen and be there for a week playing 3 times a day. That just doesn't make sense to me.
I would agree with that. Four-walling has kind of gone out of fashion, generally speaking, anyway. But right now, what you're going to be able to do for much less money is to just buy a time, do a deal for a time or 2 or 3 during a week or an evening, rather than four-wall, because then you're committed to far too much, and we can be so much more accommodating to you on pricing if you're not taking a theater completely out of play.
Yeah, it's actually a really good thing. I mean, it's a challenging time for sure, but in some ways, it's almost a more exciting time for independent filmmakers because theaters need us now, So if you can come to them and you say, look, give me a Tuesday night at 8 o'clock and I'll fill the room, they're going to let you try and fill the room because otherwise it's empty.
Well, and to add to that, we won't just let you try, we will help you try.
Well, there's that.
Okay, our marketing team would work with whoever's films it is marketing team, and it's got to be a joint effort in order to make it.
Yeah, it's a partnership at that point, right? Yeah. Okay, we got time for a few more. Yeah.
As an independent filmmaker, and I have some friends that recently have released their films on YouTube or Instagram. Now, growing up, and I'm on productions, I was heard that's a no-no. But how do you feel about it now? Still a no-no, it's just to release a product where everyone can view it and enjoy it? Or
it depends on, are we talking about shorts or features?
Oh,
So shorts is a totally different deal because for that, you just want exposure. So there's no reason to hold it back. I mean, there's 2 or 3 places paying for shorts and it's not a lot of money. So you just want exposure. You want to be able to tell people where they can find it. But with features, I think what's really important is that you hold back as long as you can to let people see it because it's going to create an obstacle for any conversations with any of the other distributors. If you've already exhausted everything and you didn't get any other deals, I still personally think you're gonna make out better financially and more people can find it if you create a unique campaign and have your own website to promote that film. You can put the trailer on YouTube, but I'm not personally a fan.
I would say absolutely not, because what we have learned, and Peter can speak of that, is that the theater owners don't want something that's already on Netflix, or if it's on why would they spend the time? That's not it. So, no, exactly. So you want to, do this before you post anything up for.
Yeah, just to add on, but even the idea of it for about, I think you would want to keep that, right? I feel like maybe you can build it to remain creative, but I'm going to just release the idea, share it all with it, and kind of let it come.
Well, something I'd like to add to that. So I think social media is king, right? So I think you should build a buzz about your film, but I wouldn't say show it. So you could do behind the scenes, you could do all kinds of stuff. Show the trailer, make multiple trailers, 3 trailers, 4 trailers. Just build a buzz about it. And with short films, you could go with these other feature film independent makers and be part of their event. So if you have a horror short film, find like Peter's film, or we're double feature with A Hard Place. It'd be great to see a short film at the head of that. So you could even create events and just seek out other people that have these feature films. Make a team event. Make it big. Also, there's a lot of places that won't touch your film unless you've been in theaters. So I would go theater route first and then digital distribution somehow. And then if it's a failure, yeah, sure, social media or post it on YouTube. But then, then your next one, it's all a learning curve and it's all a learning experience. And, but yeah, definitely do theaters first. And then, of course, you'll expand from there.
Right, and if you do that before you do any kind of streaming deal, even if your film is not a success and you don't have a lot of weeks held over, but just by happenstance that you put it out and you marketed it and you were in theaters, then you will get a better streaming deal when you're ready to get that. So if you make your streaming deal at the head, you've shot yourself in the foot. So you want to build the brand. and get out and show that. And so whoever was asking about what we do with social, like every time we have a screening, we have behind the scenes people showing the people in line around the building on a Tuesday night to get into our film. Of course, we're going to grab that, right? But that's what you want to grab. You want to have little interviews of, hey, what brought you out to the theater tonight? How do you know about our film? What did you think of it? And that gives, because word of mouth and what people think right there, that is more important than, all the articles, et cetera, like that. It's really about what the people are thinking and then what they're going to share and spread on social. So if you have them on your clip, they're going to go and put it up on their thing. And we've even had some people say when we were in Florida, they knew we were going to show in Georgia, and they were going to drive that 5-6 hour trip to come see the movie again. So we were pretty excited about having fans so quickly.
That's great. All right, yeah, we got a couple more in the back. Jaws, you got one?
Yeah, I'm curious. I talk to a lot of filmmakers that are going to the festival circuit, and we're at the festival now. I want to know your thoughts on how leading into self-distribution, how do you take advantage of the festival circuit, say your film director festivals? How does that feed into the self-distribution process?
Well, I'll just give you a quick one, and then maybe somebody else wants to add. But the idea is, for me, with that idea, it's about marketing. It's about generating buzz, and you might get some capsule reviews. You might get some awards. So you're really capitalizing and building momentum for your release. If you know that you're going to do self-distribution, I have a client that's going to release their film in October. So they're doing as many festivals as they can up to October, and they'll increase their momentum and their PR. They'll hire a publicist to get the most out of those last few events that will help generate more excitement when they do their self-distribution. But you kind of have to reverse engineer it and think about what other cities and where you want to take it with self-distribution. And you want to be careful. In some cases, if it's a big city, you can play a festival and generate some awareness and maybe talk to the local theaters and maybe come back, right, when you're ready. But you also want to be careful not to play too many theaters or get too much awareness for a place where you want to come back and have a theatrical later. You kind of got to find the balance there. I know Sony Classics and some of these mini majors, they will only let you play certain festivals right before the release of the film because they only want so many people to get to see it because they're taking money out of their pocket for the sales. So you kind of got to find that balance. Do anybody want to add to that? Or are we good? All right, well, good. We're going to keep going. We got time for two more. Did Heather have another question? Or did she go? Is there another question? I felt like I saw another hand back there. Yeah? Oh, there you go.
You're getting weddings free ticket. Are you guys who's making any money here? Like, does the theater owner just make random fashions, or do the tenants still theater own and then you have to pay those tickets?
No. Well, you make your deal with the theater owner, and when we were doing that, when you can bring in 200 people on a Tuesday night when they wouldn't have had that room booked, that, kind of was the solution there. But we didn't know it. I mean, we just had to keep pushing it and building that momentum. But they didn't, because they were making so much on the concession on a pretty much dark night. No, it's our film, so we offered it for free. But what we're really doing was we're getting the data, we're getting all the information of what works and what doesn't, so that we can share this and work with people. I mean, we're really going up against a wall because the majors aren't excited about us trying to make the theater owners give us rooms because they have contracts and stuff with them of sorts.
Well, no, I'm not criticizing free tickets at all.
Yep.
But having said that,
It's on. Just got to hold it.
we would work with you to make sure that you don't have to do free tickets. It might be a discounted ticket rate. You're right. It's not so much about what we're dining in the cinema, so it's not so much about concessions, but food and beverage generally. Yeah, right. I mean, so But what we would do is assist you to making sure that you do get a ticket price, and you do share in some revenues.
Yes, well, that's actually what the goal is. But in order to be able to talk about this or know that it could be done when people tell you no and you can't come in, et cetera, that was kind of what we did. Similarly, I don't know if you have heard the story of Amazon, but for 11 years, he held his investors at bay and they could not understand. And it really wasn't about all the things they're selling. It's about the database, right? And so with that, that's the power. And it's also the information, right? So that was really why we're doing it. We aren't out there going to consult with other people and try and say, oh, you should do it free. It just depends. There's so many variables to look at. But what we're doing is we're paving the road to help other people have a more fluid, smooth transition, because it should be. The theaters need the indie filmmakers, and it just has never been an opportunity before. This is historic, and now is the time, right? And so that's why we were pushing free to just test the system. But we're selling tickets now.
And it is important just to know that each theater is case by case. There's just, once you get outside the major theater chains, each theater is going to be different, and it's going to be based on the time of year and what they've got booked.
Yeah, but we are working with some people who are doing art houses, and some films need to be in an art house, right? But a lot of films want to go first run theaters, and that's the goal. That's what we're doing, is offering that along with art house films as well, because of some of the people we've worked with at Hundreds of Beavers. We've helped them with the promotions at the end of their film and some other films. So it's been a really fun journey, because we're working with other people. We are competitive with them. We're working together. It's a really great balance.
And that's a good point that you mentioned 100 Beavers, because your model's a little different, because 100 Beavers went straight to art houses, right? Going into the independent theater chains. You guys are playing first-run theaters. You're doing the event thing, but you're hoping for the holdover to prove the model. So it's a little bit different, but it's the same idea. It's still turning the system on its side.
So we got them in the first run theater.
Right.
So
So now they're crossing over, but their original run was.
they're done with their run. Now they're going to film.
But this 100 Beavers made over $1 million, which is kind of a big deal.
$50,000.
Yeah, $150,000 movie made over $1 million. All right, we got time for one more. Anybody else got a question out there? We good? All right, yeah, go ahead.
If you had a movie, say 20 years ago, that was the time of DVDs and that type of stuff, obviously times have changed. And let's say I got a product that was distributed formally by a company, distribution company, and now it's open to redistribute again. It's, because the product is not yours, right? You're all contract in this. How would you suggest following about that?
Well, it really starts with the product and the audience, right? If there is a niche audience for it, then it's how to get creative to reach that audience. They don't know if it's 5 years old or 15 years old. If you can rebrand and create new materials, create a website for it, and do some marketing for it, then you can probably drive some eyeballs. But you have to get creative. You can't just stick it up on iTunes or stick it up on Amazon and say, I own this now, and then to wait for people to come, because nobody's going to find it. So it really is about getting creative with the marketing, and frankly, it doesn't matter how old it is. I mean, you're probably not going to sell it, but you can. I mean, you're not going to sell it to a company, but if you're talking about alternative distribution, self-distribution, just rebrand and make it creative and give it a shot. I got a movie that's about to have its 15th year, and I'm getting it back, and I'm going to try the same thing. All right, so we have to jump because some of you have to get to the award ceremony, but thank you all for joining us. Before you go, we're all going to tell you how you can find us. So for me, my company is Cause Pictures, Cause with a C, C-A-U-S-E, pictures.com, Jon at causepictures.com. And Film Festival Mastery, if any of you are interested in film festival courses or learning about that, tell us how they can find you.
CineRoadshow.com.
And RonaFilm.com.
PruneYardsCinemas.com, and if any of you want to try to show one of your films at our cinema, just send us an email and we'll get right back to you.
Where?
It's in Campbell, California, right? Silicon Valley, near San Jose.
Been to many films there.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Can I, wait, can I add one more thing? One more thing. Joan mentioned a statistic earlier. I just kind of wanted to break it down just to bring it home a little bit more. The major film releases now are 1.2 films from Hollywood per week now, instead of 6.
4 to 5, 6 a weekend.
So right now is the most important time for independent filmmakers and the most viable time for independent filmmakers to get into theaters. Get your film into theaters. There's no excuse not to.
There's never been an opportunity like this.
Yeah,
So
never.
the gates are open.
Yeah, you just need a plan. You just
Let's
need a
do
plan. So
this.
reach out to everybody up here and we'll help you with a plan.
Yeah.